Hello people, welcome back to the podcast. I think I've been sounding a wee bit negative in the last few weeks, and it's because I've been coming to the conclusion that I've once again frazzled my wee brain. I've burnt myself out. I've overcooked it. I've overshot it. And luckily for me, I'm quite aware of these thoughts, and I caught it well before I usually do. Usually I completely fry it, like both sides, and I've caught it, and I want to I just want to voice my thoughts about all of it and put it out there. It'll be like a mini therapy session for me and possibly you. I know a lot of my clients go through this and probably are going through it right now, and definitely a lot of PTs. So it's not going to be tips for getting you over burnout or how to get through it. It's just going to be a chat. I'm just going to voice how I feel, and then I bet you a lot of people feel the same. Before we get into it, there's going to be a question box. I'm nearly coming to 100 episodes, and I want to do a Q&A for my 100th episode. Very original, I know. So on Spotify, there'll be a question box. On Instagram, I'm going to put up a question box, and on YouTube, you can just comment the questions below. I'm aware on YouTube, video podcasting isn't ideal. It's not the best way to grow on YouTube, so you just probably won't comment on there, but I'll get plenty of questions on other places. So 100th episode will be a Q&A episode, and today let's get into the burnout chat. So I had a lot of personal circumstances change over the last few months. And every sort of time that happened, like when I moved back to Australia, or when I moved to London, or when I moved back from London, when you run your own business, people are like, you can just work from a coffee shop. You can just you can just move to Bali and online coach. Nah, you can't really. Like, I can't work in coffee shops because I can't concentrate with people fucking talking over me or slurping their coffee next to me. Also, a lot of my business requires me to do like voice messages, or like I do a lot of forum videos for clients. So I can't work in a coffee shop. And even if I didn't have to do that, I just hate working in coffee shops. So I very much have to like be somewhere that's like feels like a working atmosphere. That's why I come to the gym a lot to work, and I don't like working from home. So I think in February I moved out again. And I just had a whole load of other tasks to do. I now live further away from the gym. And even just the difference in like having a few hours less to do things when you run your own business, can really change things. Also, last year I had someone helping me with the podcast. I had someone helping me make clips for it. I didn't really grow the podcast that much. It was actually one of my mates, and he ended up getting another job, and I didn't really see the point in paying that amount of money again to not really grow the podcast that much, because you really need to train someone. So I basically just had less time but took on more at the same time, which is when you say it out loud like that, you're just like, oh, you dumb bastard, again, you done it to yourself again. You took on too much, and you convinced yourself you could do it. However, what I was before, I would have just done that and went, I'm Superman, I can do this. Whereas now I was like, I knew this was gonna happen. I just still have a business to run, so even though you can be ultra aware of these things, it can still happen. So that's what's happened to me. Also, my missus asked me, this is when I knew it was quite bad. She just, like, I'd been coming home at 9 at night a few times, not loads, by the way. I'm actually quite good for, like, if I'm watching something, I don't go on my phone. Unfortunately, I don't get back to DMs and random comments, because I'm just like, fuck that, that's too much for me. I'm not someone who spends a lot of time on my phone. And at the weekend, when I'm not working, I'm actually not working. And that's took me 2 or 3 years to get to that point. And I think most other people, especially PTs or people that run their own businesses or self-employed, struggle to get to that point. So I'm grateful for that. But she asked me, can you see yourself still doing this when you're like 35? I'm 28 now, and I've been doing this for like 4 years. And I was like, I just looked at her, and I was like, that really triggered me. And she knew straight away, didn't she? Like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I was like, nah, this is nothing for you to be sorry about. You asked me a normal question that someone in a good relationship probably would ask. And I'm like, my problem is more, why did I get so triggered at that? Like, why did I want to defend myself? It was more of a self-reflection thing, the triggering. And I was like, absolutely nothing to do with you. Like, you've done nothing there. This is a new problem that I now have to contend with, that you've brought to my attention. And I've probably been just ignoring it a bit because I know I can't do what I've been doing when I'm like 35. I know, like, I already know that I need to change things again now. And I was like, yeah, no, I can't. But I've convinced myself that things will be different by then. But really, they need to start changing now. What I've noticed is I've went into like box ticking mode, where I know if I post 2 podcast clips a week and I post 2 medium clips a week and I try to make a good podcast, it'll grow. But that's following like a strategy. I'm notoriously bad for following like strategies. As soon as it takes the fun or creativeness out of something, I can't do it. So I almost, if I'm gonna like just grow my business or grow anything, I'm gonna have to do it in an unconventional way, because if I don't like doing it, it's not gonna get done and I'm gonna burn out. So the conventional way or the most optimal way, both of those words make no sense in my scenario, because I won't be able to do it. It was the same with like Instagram Reels. I every time I thought about making a reel, I was like, right, I've spoke about all of these things. I've made a million videos in these places. I feel icky when I come out with a hook, and I also don't like it when I feel like I've just made somebody watch something that they won't get anything out of because it's been made to help me grow on Instagram. So I'd done it with those things, and I was basically starting to do lots of research for YouTube and the podcast, and I was like, I'm just gonna do this, like, it's a different medium, but if I just do all the things to make me optimize growing a podcast or whatever, it's like I'm just gonna hate it again. Like, I'm literally like just gonna hate it. I dipped my toe into like just talking about like controversial subjects. So like I wanted to talk about fat shaming, but I went, right, makes sense to like hit something a bit controversial. So I talked about how Joe Rogan talks about fat shaming. And people even commented on it, saying things like, you've sounded like you didn't want to make this. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Yes, you are right. I didn't want to make that. But it got 2,000 views on YouTube and was one of the most watched episodes. But also at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but did anyone stay? Or did they just want to watch that one episode? Loads of new listeners, how many of them stayed? Maybe like very little, because it was his face was getting the views. So it's for what? That's what I keep, stuff like that. I'm like, for what? And I think I very much have got back into what do they call that? Paralysis by analysis thing. I've been thinking too much about things, and I've been ticking too many boxes instead of actually just like taking a step back and going, what do I actually want to do? And what am I good at? Okay, build it around those two things. Yeah, that's where I'm at. So what am I maybe like, how am I gonna get through this? Because I've actually got like that might have been a very depressing start to a podcast, but I'm not scared about this, and I don't feel like I'm gonna quit, and I actually cut myself off from, like, I would have fully burnt the flame out
Like imagine like all the candle wax is gone. I stopped well before because I've been here and I was this time last year, I frazzled it. Like this is what I was trying to do. And I remember cause I've had probably my longest streak where I've not really done this. And I can kind of laugh about it because I know what I've done to myself in the past and how much it. And I'll probably, if I listen to this back in like 3 years' time, I was like, you naive little boy. But that's the way I'm thinking about my previous self right now. But before, so when I burnt out last year, right, this is what I was doing. I was like, right, I'm going to grow on Instagram. Why? Because I don't have a scalable business, and I don't want one. By the way, I'll maybe touch into PTs might be interested in that. I don't want a scalable business. I don't want right now anyway, and I don't really feel like I'll want it in the future. But like, I don't want to do like low ticket, like have like 300 clients in quotation marks, because they're not really clients, they're just people that are paying you for some like really bog standard cookie cutter thing you've made. I don't want it. I don't think it's really that helpful, and I need to look at what's going to fulfill me, and if I feel like I'm not really helping anyone, no fulfillment, I'll not want to do it. So I can scrap that idea. So with my business not being scalable, like say I can only really work with 25 to 35 clients. I've been saying it for a while, and then I keep like every now and then I'll be like, right, I'll get up to 40 clients. I never actually get there, by the way. I get to like 35 and go, I can't really do this. And like you'll hear PTs talking about how they've got 50 online clients or 55, and I'm always very skeptical because I've found when I get to 35 max, the standard of my service goes way down. And by the way, I've got systems. Like, I have systems. I've systemized a lot of how I work. There's a certain amount of mental energy you need to be able to help 35 people when they actually just openly talk to you about their problems. When I go over 35, can't do it. And I very rarely will hear someone talk about having 50 clients and go, do you like talk to them that much? And they're like, yeah. Like, or is it a Zoom call with all of them? And they're like, yeah, do quite a lot of Zoom calls with all of them. I'm like, okay, right. What our services are very, very different then. So what I was doing last year is I was like, right, I'm going to grow on Instagram. So I got an app to like block Instagram, TikTok, all that sort of thing off. I was trying to get up and work straight away. And I was also trying to like analyze all my videos. Now, by the way, this is like a year and a half ago. Trying to analyze all my videos and the retention on them. And then that's what I was doing as well. Sometimes I was posting twice a day. So I was doing like 2 reels, then 1 tweet thread thing. And sometimes 2 posts were going up a day. And when you do it like that, right? See if you just do it, done it for like 2 months, like you don't get any growth, and then one day I just blew 2 or 3 videos just blew up, and I gained like 14 or 15,000 followers in a week or whatever. And it was mostly alcohol related content and then some fitness stuff, but the fitness stuff was very aggressive fitness stuff, because when you start doing that, you start, not without really realizing it, if you're looking at all the hooks that are working, it's all stuff that's annoying people and all that. And before you know it, you're making content that just annoys people for views. And like, that's a whole other podcast for another day that I've probably spoke about. But yeah, I gained these 14 or 15,000 followers, and I had all these DMs about people asking me like how to quit alcohol. And I was like, well, now I've got like 30 clients. I've got all these followers that are asking me about how to quit alcohol that don't want coached. I was like, what was the point in that? And I also had worked myself into the ground for those 2 months. So like, I honestly had to take a month off. I didn't want to do anything. I was living with 2 of my best mates in Australia, and they were like wanting me to come camping with them and go out. The only thing I could get myself up for was I was playing beach volleyball a lot last year. That was the only thing I could get myself up for. my strength started going down in the gym, even though I was eating, like I was in the middle of a bulk. And I didn't want to go to the gym either. But I even if I don't want to go to the gym, I've just done it that long now, I'll still go. But it's just like fucking walking about, basically doing a few, tricep extensions, a few leg extensions, and just not really arsed about it. After like getting really strong and like my strength was going down, and I just was really low and like had loads of brain fog. And I think lots of that was not just how much I'd worked, how much I'd realised how much my ego had just made me do all this stuff that didn't matter at all. I'd even got to the point where I was actually like thinking about like, right, I'll overtake this person in followers and I'll do this. And I'm like, why? Why would you do that? And people that haven't, the people that have listened to me recently will be like, that doesn't sound like you. Because this is like a year and a half ago. And I also was very conscious of that before. It's just I'd fell into that. And this is kind of like before I really went for therapy and stuff. But I think social media is made like that. It's made to make you feel like that. If you, even when I was starting to look at how to like grow on YouTube and stuff, YouTube's even worse. Like so many YouTube people are quitting because YouTube is like, for creators, YouTube's literally designed to make you feel like that. Like they've got a ranking system on videos where when you upload one, it will say out of 10. So if it says 9 out of 10, that's like your 9th out of 10th worst video. So automatically, as soon as you see that in the first 24 hours, you're like, that was horrendous. And I put so much effort into that and it was shit. But it's to make you feel like you need to make a better one. So it's, as someone who creates like videos and stuff, it's almost utterly pointless. And the reason I got so triggered by that question my missus asked me is because I've had to relearn this lesson like 4 or 5 times now. And then when I've went for therapy, I've done so much things with my business to not rely on social media that I get annoyed at myself for, like, I don't post on Instagram anymore. I haven't gained followers in like a year. I also don't need to. And then as soon as I went to look at like growing the podcast, like really actually, I was like, right, I may as well grow this podcast so I can maybe like live off it in the future. Like a pure, who cares if you can live off it in the future. But I just fell into the same trap with YouTube. I just started doing the same things. But you also have to give yourself a bit of a break and be like, that's also how social media, it's all made to make you feel like that. It's made to make you want to keep making better content because they want you to make better content so that people will stay on the app longer. So it's a problem with not just yourself. You have to be very, and doing this stuff, you have to be so self-aware. Otherwise you will burn yourself. Like, you have to be so self-aware. And now why I'm probably all right with all of this as well is like, I have built stuff for my business that means I don't need to rely on social media. I have a pretty big email list, and also I get a lot of my clients just by like doing free sessions, and also because I feel quite good at coaching now, I get a lot of referrals from current clients. So I don't need a big social media following to get clients. So before I used to, like last year, because I was all online at the time, being in Australia, I was like, I felt like I had to go on social media to be exposed to new people, to get new clients. Whereas now I don't really feel like that. So I can happily go, I don't really need to post on social media and I'll be fine. But I think most people don't have that luxury, which is something if I was a PT, all my PT friends that rely on they're convinced they need to grow on social media, but they could, if they've got followers, or even they've got even 1,000 followers, if they just helped their actual audience, they would probably get clients. But that's what I would urge people to do. Like, sooner you stop relying on social media for clients, the better. Here's a few things I need to do going forward to avoid this happening again. And like, this is, can you hear that, right? This is me slapping myself in the face, because I'll do a big, right, just to get myself to fully, hear my own voice tell me this lesson for the 100th time. I only have about 5 or 6 good hours of work in me a day. I know a lot of you do 8-hour shifts and you go, oh, you, my friend, are a pussy. Now, granted, right, I've had plenty of jobs, right? So I've worked in offices and stuff. I never once done 8 hours of work in those offices, ever. When I worked in hospitality, see, when you asked me to clean the glasses, I didn't. But if there was people to serve, I'd serve them. I was a hard worker in that way. But see, the busy work stuff wasn't getting done. I remember one of the worst things that happened to me working in a bar, which just it hurt my soul so much, was when we worked in a bar on the beach in Australia, and the owner was insane, like an absolute mentalist, right? Used to come in, do gear, and then just like start serving people and all that. He would come up and like, I remember like when my first week there, he came up and asked me like for the most expensive bottle of champagne, and then gave me the money for it. So it was like $100, and he was like, "Thanks, mate," and he was like talking to me as if he didn't own the place. And I think when he gave me he had the tab. I knew he had a tab and all that, and he gave me the money, and I was like, "What's this guy doing?" And then about an hour later, he just ran into the bar and took 5 of the champagne bottles that he'd spent $100 on. I was like, this guy's mental. This guy's a fucking lunatic. But when he was in, all the managers were so on edge because he could, and I liked working in there, by the way. He was the only sort of issue, and he wasn't in all the time. So it's just when he was in, you were just like, well, anything could happen. But he was in one day, and they were like, can you clean the glasses? So I cleaned all the glasses, like polished them, and then he left, and then he came back in, and one of the managers, who I didn't like anyway, he's a fucking prick, I came up and he was like, right, he's in again. Can you just recheck that you cleaned the glasses properly? And I was like, or I could not do that. Or you could, I think I said to him, I was like, do you want to just clock me off instead? Because I'd honestly rather sacrifice 2 hours of work than do what you just asked me to do. And I'd done a 3-hour shift that day because I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm honestly not doing that. Where the fuck was I going with this? This is actually what I want to do with podcasting. Stop fucking trying to be so strategic and like make it like really, really like planned and structured so you like can follow a story, because my brain doesn't work like that. I can't remember why I started that story. To be perfectly frank with you, I know that I've got a wee note that might somehow get me back on track. I've only got 5 or 6 good hours of work in me, and to be honest, most of yous probably do as well. I know that my missus would probably argue that she has to do 12-hour night shifts, but okay, cool, I'm not a doctor. I can't do that. So I've been saying this honestly from my first year of doing this, is like, after I do 5 or 6 hours of work, anything I do after is complete and utter shite. Like, it's really bad. See, if I was to just do my client work, or are you fucking thing in front of me there? Do my client work, give that my attention. Like my online clients, I can maybe 2 or 3 hours of speaking to them online. I might have 1 or 2 in-person sessions a day. Like, I'll probably do about 5 to 10 in-person sessions a week, and then my online stuff might only take me like 2 hours a day, right? Because I'll see a lot of them in person, and I don't actually have that many. Like, that's like 10 hours of online work a week, then 10 hours of in-person work a week. Then if I was to just, you've obviously got other bits. If I have to take on other clients and all that, I'm making that sound like, see, when I say that's 20 hours a week, it's not, it's more than that. I probably never worked less than 50 hours a week since I started doing this, unless I've took a week off. Even if some of it's just forced pointless work. That's what I'm trying to get rid of, but you always just filter it back in. You go, right, all of that was pointless, and then somehow all of the stuff that you've told yourself is pointless to take out, it starts drip feeding back in. And you're like, nah, mate, your tasks are pointless. And then somehow your brain just convinces you that there was some use for those tasks, and you start doing them again. But that's the most annoying thing is I know this about myself. But I think why I start falling into the trap is because when you're feeling good, right, and you're feeling like you're building a bit of momentum with work, like stuff's going well, clients are really smashing it, you're getting quite a lot of referrals, clients are quite easy to bring in because things are going well, you're really confident. You just start going, right, I've done 5 or 6 hours of work and I feel good, so I'm going to keep going. But that's exactly where I fuck myself. Even if I feel good and feel like I can keep going, that's where I should rein myself in. So the way I'm trying to picture it now, like the analogy I'm trying to give myself, and like, I hate these type of videos, right? And I done 1 or 2 of them and I was like, I'm never doing that again. That felt icky. But if you see people do, and this is purely for the Instagram algorithm, right? People will line up like 5 glasses of water and they'll say that you've only got this 1 full glass of water and you can only put a certain amount of water in each bit. One's like relationships, one's like work, one's like health, and maybe one other one, right? And you've only got so much water you can put in the glasses. The way I'm trying to think about it, I'm just trying to think about the 1 glass of water and always keeping some water in the glass. So even if I feel like I've got more energy to give to something, if I've done my sort of 5 to 6 hours, I'm actually going to I'm going to focus on taking less and less tasks out my day. So instead of me thinking, right, I can maybe go to 40 clients, even just that mindset of I could get to 40 clients, I think that mentally fatigues me just thinking that I should do that. Even if I don't then take on the clients and then therefore have less energy because I've took on the clients, even making that the goal can start making me do extra tasks to get to that goal, or just make me start feeling a bit overwhelmed or like I'm underachieving. So just being so strict with my boundaries, being like, right, it's 30 clients and no more forever. Even if I somehow have 5 to 10 extras hours in the week, it's 30 clients and I'm just upping my prices. Stupid things like that, right? And then it's things like, oh, even if I feel like there was a banger of a podcast clip in there that I haven't quite done yet and I feel like I could bang it out in 2 hours and it would grow the podcast, fuck it. Fuck the clip. Who cares? Who honestly cares? And that's the way I'm gonna, like, there's another part to this as well that I've been writing notes about because it's something I've been thinking about a lot, especially as PTs, right? I can't sell my business to anyone. So like my coaching business, what is the point in me having like a scalable online business, right? What is the point in me, say I was to hire other coaches and stuff, I can't sell that to a company because it's all built off of me, and it's no different to, like, not being funny, right? We're all coaches and we all have our different like personalities, and some are better than others obviously, and some are just doing ridiculous things with our clients, but a lot of us that are quite good at the job, and I'm sorry, I would say I would blow my own trumpet there, I'd say I'm quite good at coaching. But if you took another quite good coach with similar experiences to me, we're probably going to do very similar stuff. So like, what would make my coaching be able to be built by a company, or like how I coach people? Like, it's not something that I can sell on to someone. So no matter how much I grow things or systemize things or make things more profitable, and literally anything, it is only going to last as long as I last doing it, because it's me that's running it, and it's never going to be sold, because it won't be sold, because it can't be sold, because it's nothing that somebody would buy. And that's most of us that are running service and coaches and businesses. that, and even if we made that some sort of scalable business, it can't be sold. So it solely relies on you. Like that hamster wheel is always going to be you running on it. So it almost depends on how much can you run on that without it being too fast for you, because you're always going to feel like you're on some sort of hamster wheel, which has been a bitter pill to swallow for me, because every year I'm like, right, how do I get off the hamster wheel? And I'm like slapping myself on the face. I'm like, oh yeah, you can't, because that's the nature of building one of these businesses. And I think this will be quite helpful for anyone that is building any sort of business, or anyone that does feel burnt out, right? So last 2 weeks, I've been having these days called thinking days. I was speaking about this on my Instagram. I was like, right, I need to just sit and figure out what I actually want to do, and just stop ticking boxes for a while, because I had no time to think, because I'd literally just capped out my days to do. It was just task after task after task after task. And I was just like, what am I doing? Like, I'm just doing all of these meaningless tasks. Well, maybe like, say it was 8 tasks, 4 meaningful, 4 meaningless. And then I was like, I had no time to actually think about if I was spending my time in a meaningful way. So I sat and listened to loads of different podcasts from people in the same line of work or similar work. So loads of coaches, loads of people that had built coaching businesses, loads of people that were YouTubers, or they'd built courses on YouTube, because these are all the options you sort of have, right? You can go, as like for me, like here's, like I don't want to do half of these routes, but just because it can be interesting just for you to hear what are all the different routes I could go down. So like I can just coach on my own, which is probably what I'm going to do. Like, well, that is what I'm going to do, because it's I don't want to do any of the rest of them, right? Or I could do one of these big communities or something and not really coach people, but run a really like big community thing or whatever. And again, people might not want to enjoy that. It's actually not any easier to sell like a low ticket coaching thing. I know I've never done this, but I've heard about enough people speaking about it, and I know that a lot of I've spoke to plenty of PTs that have went, oh yeah, I got a big following, and then I just went, I'll try to build one of these communities, and nobody bought it, even though it was way cheaper. Because people know that they're not going to get the service that they would get on one-on-one, so it's just as hard of a sell, even though it's cheaper. Or I could like make products. So I could make plans or make an ebook. Ebook would be shite, like, but maybe some sort of program. If I've got like 5 or 6 years of coaching experience and it was for beginners, I could eventually do that, and it might be something I would do, but I'm not really just now. I'm not arsed. People get sponsored and stuff, so like you could have brand deals and sponsorship. Absolutely no interest in that. There's loads of like ways that for me that would be toxic straight away. You would feel like you have to make content to make someone else money. That straight away just fries my brain. And also you have to rely on that sponsorship to want to keep paying you, even though it could be budget related and you could get cut at any second, not through your own fault, because they've just decided that they don't want to do influencer marketing or have brand ambassadors anymore, which is what you see happen to a lot of influencers. I honestly think influencing must be one of the most socially, not socially, one of the most, oh my god, English just broke for a while. I broke the full language. I think it must be one of the most anxiety-inducing jobs in the world, because you've zero job security whatsoever, and you're relying on algorithms. If you look at like, I don't want to talk about these type of people, right? But just for an example, people like, see if you're not Scottish, right? Just go and look at that guy Kaz Milligan's TikTok. All he's doing is doing the most crazy stuff to still stay relevant on social media. No offense to the guy, right? I've actually not, I don't know him. I don't know him at all. I don't know his personality, but it's not hard to see what he's trying to do. He's just trying to do anything to still get people to watch his TikToks. And like, fuck that, mate, fuck that so much. So that's another option I could have. And then that's about it, really. Or I could try do what loads of people do and do a business mentorship where I'm now coaching other people, and I can make that business mentorship cookie cutter but still well expensive, which most of them do. And I could coach coaches how to coach. Now, luckily for me, my ego's not that big, and I know that maybe in a year or two I would have really, really helpful information for PTs. I'm 4 years into it, and I very much have just spent like 80% of that time in the trenches, 20% of the time making content. So I don't feel like I'm valuable enough to do stuff like that, and I don't really want to. I don't want to then make my business about making more money, because that's pretty much the main reason people start coaching coaches, is because coaches will pay more money for coaching than like regular people will pay a personal trainer to coach them. So they are like pretty much all of my options. Now, the problem with most of these things that in regards to my personality is I delegated social media stuff last year. I delegated short form podcast clips and YouTube thumbnails and YouTube sort of medium podcast clips. Now, that meant I had someone asking me, and like I've heard so many YouTubers speak about this and so many coaches speak about this, that because they've like they've got more clients, they've hired a second coach and stuff. And this was one of my friends, and I'm still friends with him, like good friends with him. I seen him in Madrid last year, so I'd like to caveat that by saying we didn't fall out and we were nowhere near falling out, but it was the overwhelming feelings I had the full time, right? So I had to kind of like, making podcast clips is fucking hard, right? Because you have to follow, like if you just clip a random 1 minute of a podcast, it will make no sense on social media, because you might like, they'll have no reason to start watching it, and you would have covered the topic in a minute. So you almost need to clip 10 minutes down. Sometimes you need to change the order of the clips, otherwise the full sentence doesn't make any sense. On short form, it's actually really hard. So I was like showing him how to do that. They weren't really going anywhere. And also, when I was making him do YouTube stuff, I didn't understand YouTube. I didn't understand thumbnails whatsoever, so I couldn't help him with that. He actually knew more than me. Like, he'd built a YouTube with 50,000 subscribers before teaching people how to do freestyle, which is what I used to do before, which is how I know him. But I couldn't get him the stuff he needed to make good thumbnails, because I didn't know what they were, like good pictures and stuff, good pictures that would make sense with a title, etc. And when I had to pay him, so I was only paying him 600 quid a month, right? But I also pay to hire out studios. I also pay to work in the gym. So that was a lot of money for me. And then in order to do that and have more expenses, I needed to constantly have at least 30 clients. Otherwise, I wouldn't be making any money, or I'd be maybe making minus money, if that's a sentence. So I didn't really have the time to help him that much, because I was focusing so much on having the money to afford to pay him to do that. And honestly, it ended up just being a year of like, he just made clips that didn't really go that far, and it was by no means his own fault, right? His fault, sorry, because also I said this to him multiple times. I was like, mate, if someone was paying me £600 a month, and wasn't helping me know what to do, one, I wouldn't have the motivation to give a fuck, because £600 isn't enough to live off of, and it isn't really going to change his life. And two, like, I'm not going to spend the time figuring out how to really, and like, he would get no benefit from if the clip started doing well. I did like start on 400, then 500, then 600. But because I don't run a scalable business either, if the clips went well, I couldn't take on any more clients, so I wouldn't even be able to pay them more anyway. So I was just like, this is just not, like, I'm not prepared to do anything to make me want to hire people. And I see all of these other businesses that are going that way. But for me, I think you need like 6, 7, 8, 9 years of coaching. Obviously 9 years is, it's not really excessive. It's a fucking hard job. So if you don't do any of that, how do you know how to like coach all the other people? And it's even like with the social media stuff. If you're coaching social media, you need to have spent time in the trenches making all the social media content. For example, I knew nothing. I was quite good, well informed with short form stuff. But if I was to let him help me with YouTube stuff, I don't know anything about YouTube, so how can I help him? Stuff like that. And then I just started thinking about, right, if I did make it just one-on-one coaching, but I hired another coach, what kind of person is gonna want to work underneath me? Probably someone that doesn't feel like they're good enough to be a one-on-one coach on their own. So that straight away strikes me as like, oh, I don't know if that's gonna work. Maybe you get someone that's gonna do it part-time and they are really good at coaching, but they've got another job. But then that also screams to me, they're probably not gonna do this long term. So then you're maybe have a coach for a year, then you have to train the next person for a year. And I've not heard that many stories about those things where it's like it goes really well for a long time. It's like people go into business with each other, it lasts a year or two. I know so many PTs that have went into business. I've seen so many PTs start businesses with each other and they fail straight away just because of these sort of things. Like nobody takes them into consideration. And I have took them all into consideration, and I know myself well enough that these aren't routes that I should take. So it's more about taking a step back and going, right, what do I actually like to do, and what can I keep up, and what is going to make my life pretty good now, and not worry about like what I'm going to be doing in the future, because that's the whole thing, that's the whole thought process that I kind of need to avoid, and that's what I'll get into in this next subject. So I know this has been an absolute ramble, right? And I feel better. I don't know if you feel better, but I feel better because I'm starting to understand how my head works. I think this is one of the things that I'll say it to clients all the time. Like, see when they're overwhelmed and stuff, I'm like, go and write it all down. And I know this is like sounds condescending because you're like, mate, your brain's absolutely cooked here. It's not really. Give me a break. It's not that bad. And I've figured it out before it got bad, I feel like, anyway. And I'll say to them, go and write it all out because it's stuck in your head. I'm voicing this all out. I've wrote it down before, and then even speaking it all out is without actual structures. It's allowed me to like almost untangle my thoughts, and I already feel better. This podcast was pretty much just self-therapy, and you guys are listening to me waffle a load of third world problems at you. Like, realistically, my life's pretty good, and I should, not shut the fuck up, because then I'm like, problems are problems, aren't they? And like, if you've got a problem in your head, it needs to be dealt with. It needs to be dealt with no matter how privileged you are and that sort of thing, you know. Anyway, how am I gonna get over this, and what are my plans to do? Because my situation is unique to me. Might not mean anything to you, but this is what I'm gonna do. Podcast, right? Or like, even let's start with clients, right? I was coaching the other day with no other tasks to do. I just went, right, I'm just gonna I've took my clients down a little bit, and I'm just gonna speak to them. And I was like, oh, lo and behold, I enjoy this. I enjoy speaking to my clients and being able to have more time to understand them a bit more again. I was like, this is good. I actually like this, like I always have. I've always liked coaching. So be careful with how many clients I take on, and also what type of clients I take on, because one or two can slip through the cracks that I don't really like when I feel like I'm not getting anywhere with someone, and that can be due to them, or it can also be due to their circumstances that don't allow them to actually put coaching at the forefront of their priorities. So being careful with that, right? Don't go over 30 clients. Learn that lesson and just stick to it. Just up your prices instead of trying to take on more people. It's very simple, Gavin. So get it into your head. I can survive very comfortably off of that. Now, with the podcast, I think you have to run there's a fine line between is it worth it or is it not? So I got very close to sort of quitting doing this only because I was quite low. I'm not actually going to quit doing it. But it costs quite a lot of money to run this. And you never know if your clients are coming from podcasting. You never really know. And you never even know how, if you start getting more listeners, you don't really know where they're coming from with a podcast. It's so hard to track. They can come from anywhere, come from word of mouth, come from like clips, and come from your Instagram, they can come from you being on another podcast. You don't know where they're coming from. And with the podcast, I've now probably spent, what's it cost me? Oh, this will be grim. Just to put numbers out there, it cost me between £400 and £600 a month, and I've been doing it for 2 years. Whoa, this is going to be grim to look at, isn't it? Just say, I'm just going to put this in a calculator. Some of you are probably quite fast at maths and I've probably worked this out. But just say average is 500, right? Times 24. 12 grand. £12,000. I've probably got enough clients off of that for it to make sense, right? But you can't really measure it. So £12,000 on top of £600 every month last year. Will we just do that? Will we just do it for a wee laugh? I can work that in my head. And I get times 600 times, oh Jesus, 7.2 million. I think that's wrong. Right, 600. Clicked out the wrong button there. 600 times 12, 7,200 plus 12. I fucked it. Anyway, it's about £19,000. £19,200. I think I've probably got my maths wrong there. I got a wee bit scatterbrained there. That's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of money. So it kind of needs to make some money at one point. Otherwise, I am throwing away lots. Do you know what I mean? So can you see just by how scattered my brain got there that this at one point is gonna have to make money. So what I'm doing with the podcast is at one point I'm gonna have to have, and I don't want brand deals. I don't want anything to censor what I say. And I also, I can't take loads of clients off the back of it. So at one point I'm probably gonna make a product. Now, like I said, I don't feel like I should be coaching coaches anytime soon. I know I could bring a lot of value. I know I help coaches in my DMs and stuff sometimes, and I know I'm really, really, really helping them way more than loads of business mentorships are, but it doesn't sit right with me doing stuff like that, right? But I'll probably release a course or something that's more about, like, it'll be like 5 hours of just like how to maybe communicate with clients, how like I start, like, maybe show you snippets or like highlights of a free session and how I give as much value as possible in a free session, and stuff like that. Something that, because it's half PTs and half clients that listen to this podcast, I'm like, right, there's, just to give me a new interest, I'll do a course on how to be the best personal trainer possible or something. It'll be like 5 hours, and it's not like sales, it's not social media growth strategies, it's literally like what I've learned from being in the trenches by that point, 5 or 6 years, right? And it's not meant to be I'm not going to oversell it. I'm not going to overhype it. I'm just going to do it the way I want to do it. I think this is the most helpful stuff I've learned out of doing 200 podcasts and training people for 6 years. Buy it or fucking don't. Piss off. Don't tell me what to do. You know? Stuff like that. So I'm going to have to do something that makes this podcast generate something, even if it just pays for itself, because, you know, £19,000, doesn't feel that nice when you put it in a calculator, which you shouldn't have done. Then also with the podcast, right? Another thing I need to do is sack off growth strategies. Fuck it. See if only 300 people listen to it. I average about 300 to 500 listeners, right? I keep having to tell myself, that's a lot of people that listen to me fucking mumble a load of nonsense and calculate my spendings and nearly cry after it. That's a lot of people. So I think I found it quite hard because I don't have a co-host. So if I can't be arsed, then I know you can hear that I can't be arsed, and it pisses me off because I can't be arsed. So also I'm so like I've said this a few times. I'm so sick of podcasts. Like as in famous people podcasts can't be arsed. They say the same thing on every interview. Anyone that's written a book has 5 thoughts about life, and they talk about those 5 thoughts about life on every single podcast. And no matter what question the interviewer asks, they try to get back to one of these 5 points they know about life. So I have absolutely no interest in interviewing famous people. Also, by the way, when I've sat down here with like PTs with like big audiences and stuff, and none of them are my most listened to episodes, apart from the one with Adam, which by the way I think is because he became my mate. So we got on straight away, and I see Adam quite a lot and speak to him quite a lot because he's my mate now. So getting people on and like trying to bring in new listeners from their audience, unless they're podcasters and you really get on, doesn't really go anywhere anyway. So it's quite pointless, and I hate I don't really enjoy the conversation unless I can have. I've sat down here with people and like I've pretty obscure weird humor. I'm aware of that, but 5-10 minutes in, I'll have dipped my toe in the old humor water with my weird murky humor. I've dipped my toe in, and they've not laughed at me. I went, oh shit, I have an hour of just trying to talk to this person that doesn't find me funny. I'm fucked. So I'll zone out of the conversation naturally. So I kind of have to get people on that I'm either really interested in what they're talking about, or it's someone I know and we can just kind of like talk about a topic, but also like go astray and talk absolute nonsense. And I realised the podcasts I listen to week in, week out are people that like, it's not a topic, it's I like the people I'm listening to. It's either comedians or like, there's some that are PTs but they're co-hosted and they talk about random stuff. So it's, if I want a core audience, it's gonna have to be either things I'm really, really interested in and just not care that some people are not going to listen to those episodes. Like I went through a phase last year where I just wanted to understand gastric sleeves, how the surgeries worked, and speak to people that got them, just because I was getting questions about them from clients. So I went, fuck it, I may as well learn about it on the podcast. And like a few people were like, I'm not into your gastric sleeve obsession. I'm like, right, fuck off then. I don't really care. Or do you know what? You can fuck off for life, or you can just not watch those ones and then come back when, I don't know, I'm talking about having taken Viagra in Asia. Do you know what? You can come back whenever you want, or you can just fuck off, which I'd prefer, to be honest. So going where what my brain's obsessed with, like I'm quite into talking to therapists just now, and I'm looking at maybe getting people that work with obesity in, because I'm just interested in that right now. So going where my interests are, and also trying to get more regular people in that I'm friends with, because it's quite hard to get new guests on, especially the guests that I'm trying to get guests on that aren't famous but have something I'm interested in that I want to know about, and that's quite hard in itself. So trying to keep the main thing with the podcast is try to keep it interesting for me, and by nature that will hopefully be more interesting for you, the listener, because if I'm not interested, then you're not going to be interested, because I need to be interested, otherwise this is shite. Why are we doing it? But also at the same time, if we, me and you together, baby, grow this, I'm going to have to fucking sort out how much it's costing me as well. So I'll bring out a course probably on, I think that'll be either a free program and a course, and maybe one of them will involve a wee sort of community thing, but it'll have to be like, no, like there'll be no Zoom calls or any of that, because I don't have extra tasks to be doing, as we've covered. So aye, that's pretty much all my thoughts. I hope that helped. I'm just trying to like speak out my thoughts and then untangle them, and then I feel like I feel like I've done that. So I hope it maybe helped you in your burnout cases, because I know a lot of people are feeling it. And if it didn't, I hope you enjoyed some part of this. And if you didn't, then fuck it off. Catch you in the next one.